Hi everybody, welcome to Paper Crafting Saturday and Dandelion Cottage. I'm Leslie Watkins. So on Wednesday, on Watercolor Wednesday, I did this picture. And I told you that I would be showing you how to make something with this today. And I also, I'm just checking my settings here, making sure we're connected. Hang on. There we go. I also wanted to show you how you could do something like this with ink, okay? So you don't have to use just watercolor. So if you're a paper crafter and you have water-soluble inks that you use to replenish your stamp pads with, you can do the same thing. So I'm going to show you a technique using the reinkers, and then we're going to make something. So I have a piece of the Fluid 100 watercolor paper here. Okay, I'm going to zoom you in a little bit so you can see that better. And I also have the hand-penned petals stamp set. So I'm going to use this image, this large floral bouquet. And I have also the current or new in colors. So I've got Evening Evergreen, I've got Soft Succulent, Fresh Freesia, Polished Pink, and Pale Papaya. So in the cover of each one of these ink pads, I've squeezed a few drops of the water-based inks so that I can use these as my palette. And I'm going to begin by using the Pale Papaya, and I've got my Bouquet stamp mounted up. And I'm just going to put an image right in the middle of the paper. And then I'm going to add, I'm just going to put this on my scrap paper. I'm going to add the same image in all four corners. So I have a kind of an all-over design. There we go. That's all we need. And I have my inks lined up in front of me. I think you can see those on screen okay. Alright, so that's all the stamping for now. I've got my water painter handy, and I'm just going to take some of that Pale Papaya and I'm just going to start splashing that around, just like so. And I'm adding a little water to it. Alright, and now I'm going to rinse my brush, and I'm just going to grab some of the polished pink and add some of that to the bouquet. And I'm working wet and wet, so I am encouraging these colors to flow. And it doesn't matter if you go outside the lines. This is just a very loose, very impressionistic way to apply color and to get a really pretty all-over pattern. And I just want to go back into the centers of these larger flowers and add a little more of that pale papaya. There we go. All right, so I think you can see that color kind of moving around on the paper, and that's fine. Now I'm going to take some of the, what's the name of this one? Fresh freesia. And I'm watering all of these colors down. And I'm just going to add that in some of these spaces. And so I think you can see that I'm getting a very nice watercolor effect with the inks. Very easy to do. Okay, just splash around and you'll have a good result. All right, now I'm going into the soft succulent. Let me just turn this volume down. Here we go. Hi, Kelly. So now I'm just taking this very dilute mixture of the soft succulent and I'm putting it over the leaf shapes, just like so. Okay, so now I can go back into my painting, and using a little bit darker color, I can begin to add some little accents here and there. Okay, so you can keep going for as long as you would like. I'm just going to add a few more details in the leaves. And you can even add, if you'd like, I'm going to take some of the pale papaya and I'm just going to add some sort of flower shapes into these background areas just to give it a little more, like so. And the same with the polished pink. Just drop that right in there and let it flow. Okay, so there's a very nice sort of all over pattern. Now, this is very wet right now, so I can't get any fine details in here because the color's just going to move around too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this aside and let this dry. Okay. So there it is. I'm just going to let this dry. And in the meantime, I have another one that I did earlier. This is still slightly damp, but it's mostly dry. And so with this one, I can probably add a little more detail. Still a little wet, but I can get a little bit of line work around the center of some of these larger flowers. Okay, So I'm going to call that done for now, excuse me. And I'm going to put away my inks. And next, I'm going to be getting out my embossing powder. So I have some gold embossing powder. I've got my Versamark ink. So this is my tub of gold powder with my spoon. And I'm going to take that same image of the floral bouquet that I started with, and I'm just going to give that a little wipe, clean that off. And now I'm going to be using the Versamark ink. Okay, and I'm just going to go right over the image. Let me just move it so I can see it a little bit better. There we go. I'm going to do that in each of those areas. One more. Okay. Close this up. My where the paper's still damp, the powder is sticking, so I'm going to have to go into that with my paintbrush and just brush that away. So let me just grab my paintbrush, be right back. I'm using a bristle oil painter's brush. And I'm just going to knock that powder away from the areas I don't want it, and hopefully I can save this. Otherwise I'm going to have to do it on the other one instead. So fortunately we have a backup, so let's just see. I thought this was a little bit drier than it is. It does not look like this is going to work out so well for me. No, too wet. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Let's move on to the other one. And what I will do is I will dry it first, just for the sake of time. So I've got my heat tool here. I'm going to mute this so you don't have to listen to that. Okay, so it's nice and dry now. I'm going to start again. This time I think I'm going to zoom you in a little bit so you can see better. So I also have my embossing buddy handy, so I'm just going to give that a quick wipe just to make sure that there's nothing else sticky on here. Okay, and again with the Versamark ink. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's hope that we have a better result with this. There we go. And now I'm applying the heat again, and I'll turn the volume off so you don't have to listen. Okay, so there is our Wet and Wet wash embellished with gold, and I think you can see the light pick up that gold line a little bit. It looks very beautiful. And now I'm going to show you what we're going to make. So let me just move my heat tool out of the way. The Fluid 100 watercolor paper measures 5 by 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to score it on all the edges at 1 inch. So I'm just going to move this arm out of the way. There we go. So I'm just lining this up, and I'm lining it up over on the right side here to the 1 inch mark. And then I'm going to use my scoring blade. Make sure I have my scoring blade here. And I'm just going to score that all around on each side. And I'm going to snip this to make tabs in each corner. So on the long side, I'm just going straight up to the first score line, and then I'm taking a little angle piece out of there. So it looks like that. And I'm angling the outside edge as well. There we go. And I'm going to fold these edges on the score line and burnish them with my bone folder gently. Okay, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of the liquid glue to my tabs. Hold that in place for a moment. Just wipe off that excess glue. Same on this side. Now the the Fluid 100 watercolor paper is a 140-pound paper, and what that means is that it's nice and heavy, and it makes a very good, sturdy paper to make these little boxes with. Okay, and then I'm just going to burnish those tabs like so. And I already have a base that I've made, so I'm just going to test that fit, and that's fine. Okay, so this is a box that was made with the fresh freesia, and then I lined it with the hand-penned DSP, and the lid fits on there nicely. But what I want to do is I want to line the inside of the lid as well. So I'll show you how I did that. So I'm just going to get another piece of this beautiful DSP, and I'm going to cut this at 5, making it a tiny bit smaller so that it fits inside the box. So that's just a little bit less than 5 and a little bit less than 7. And then I'm going to score that also at the 1-inch mark on the right hand side on all 4 sides. Actually, I should flip it over for the back side for this. Okay. So here we have our DSP liner, and I'm just going to cut this. Actually, I'm going to cut it on the opposite side. So for the lid, I cut it on the long side. For the liner, I'm going to do just the opposite so it won't get too bulky. I'm just going to snip these tabs and angle cut again. There we go. Now I'm folding the edges upwards. Give those a good crease. And I'm just going to do a little dry fit here. And that fits in there perfectly. It's very snug. And I'm going to take my glue. I'm just going to run some glue on the bottom of my box, and then on the sides of my DSP. Okay. And I'm just going to drop that in. And I'm putting these flaps on the outside of the box. So that they're sandwiched nicely in between the sides. And you can use one of your clear blocks to give that a good burnish. Make sure that it's seated well down inside the box like so. And go around all the edges. And I'm just sort of tucking that in, making sure that that has really good adhesion on all four sides. Okay, now I have a 1-inch punch here, and I'm just going to use that to put some thumb holes. This is not necessary, but I like to have a little detail on the sides of my box like so. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. There we go. So there is our box lid, all embossed with the beautiful gold embossing, and our Wet n Wet water-based ink painting lined with the beautiful DSP. And I already have my base here. So this is, as I said, the fresh freesia, and this is going to fit nicely right over the top of that. Okay, now you may be wondering, well, that's a nice box, but what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to show you. This size box fits my new in-color re-inkers perfectly. So there they are, ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I'd like to see how you design yours. I want to add one little thing while I can. I have the bumblebee trinkets here, and I'm going to take one of those and get my glue dots out. I'm just going to press that right onto the glue dot just like that, and peel that away, and I'm going to put this little bumblebee right there. Okay, so that's the little box to hold your re-inkers. Of course, you could use it for a gift box and put some jewelry in there, or some soap, or some candy, or whatever it is that you like. You could add a bow. I have some of this. This is the crinkled seam binding ribbon. Let's do it. Let's wrap it all around and just see how it looks. Ooh, I'm running out. This is my last little piece. Okay, I'm not gonna have enough here to go all the way around, but we can do it this way. Go around twice this way. my fingers are a little bit sticky from the glue, and so the ribbon is sticking to my it's sticking to my fingers. But you get the idea. There we go. There you have it. So if you'd like more information about painting with the water-based inks, you can go back and look at that previous video I did of the painting with the watercolor, wet and wet. I'll get that out so you can see it again. And that will go into a little more detail about how you can use the, there we go, how you can use the wet and wet method to get these results. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you stay well and stay happy, stay creative. I will see you next on Marvelous Monday. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to Notes, and I can let you know about my upcoming classes and workshops. And I will see you next time.